Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here. Today we're going to be doing a tier list and we're going to be ranking the doctors from several categories we have here, all the way up to S tier, the best of the best, down here to the bottom where we have an F tier. Wait a minute, that doesn't say F tier. We have an A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier, E tier, but we have this other bottom tier. What does that say? It looks like a Whitaker tier. That's odd. Interesting name here. The bottom tier is called the Whitaker tier. Interesting. I wonder why it's just not called an F tier. Why would somebody call the very bottom? It's way down there too, isn't it? It's like at the bottom, called the Whitaker tier. Well, I am just stumped as to why it would have that name. Perhaps over the course of the video, the meaning behind that will become clear. At the moment, I am totally flummoxed, I must say. But moving on, we have a tier list here from S through Whitaker for some reason. Now, we don't have all the doctors listed in this one, but I'll tell you, it looks like we don't have Shooty on there and Ruth on there. But I'll tell you where I would place them as well when we get to them. Looks like these aren't done in order, which is fun, makes it more interesting. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Let's start with the 11th Doctor, Matt Smith, who a lot of times I call my favorite of modern Doctor Who. His era is a mixed bag. Series 5 is pretty good. Series 6 is not. And Series 7 is a mixed bag, with A not being that good, B being very good, feeling basically like two different seasons. And then his final episodes are pretty good, with Day of the Doctor and Time of the Doctor both being pretty good. I would put him in A. He's a solid Doctor, arguably the best of modern Doctor Who. He kind of jumps around a little bit. We have Peter Davison, who is just kind of C for me. He's just a bit bland. He's kind of like the classic version of Matt Smith. That's not very fair, as Matt Smith, as we know, kind of takes after Troughton a bit. But they kind of remind me of each other. Maybe it's just their age. But yeah, he's just kind of average for me. I don't dislike him. I don't really just think he's one of the best, but I enjoy his era, and that helps a lot. McCoy. It's really hard with McCoy. I'm gonna say A. He kind of goes in the middle there, but I'm gonna say A. Because I do like McCoy. I've been listening to some of his audios lately, and I've enjoyed him in those. He doesn't have the acting range a lot of the others have, and it does bug me when he goes into fake voice. But I do like him. I do like how his doctor gets darker and manipulative, and him and Ace are such a good pairing. So I'll give him A. Pertwee, of course, S tier. He's one of my top three. I love John Pertwee's Doctor. I love his era. I love his companions. I just love Action Doctor. Doesn't take crap from anybody. Hates authority. I just love John Pertwee's Doctor. Then we have the 13th Doctor, Jodie Whittaker. I just don't know. I don't know. Should she go in C? Should she go in D? Should she go in Whittaker? Good joke. There's a tier called Whittaker. And there's an actress who played the Doctor called Whittaker. Well, it's almost like fate. Well, we'll just stick here in the bottom, because that just seems like where we should go. I just never got into Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor. She just never really clicked for me in the role. She has occasional moments where she shines. She does, like the ending of Can You Hear Me, for example, and when she's making her sonic screwdriver in The One Who Fell to Earth. There are some of those spread out there. The scene when she's confronting the Great Serpent when he's trying to interrogate her. That's really good, how she flips the script on him. But most of the time, I feel like she wasn't written well. I don't really care for the way Jodie Whittaker is performing the character most of the time, or a lot of the time. She has several of her try-hard speeches which just don't work. Even the Daleks being an example where she's given this big speech and I'm just not buying it. It's just not working for me the way it would several other actors who have played the Doctor. If they had been giving that speech, I feel like they could have sold it better. I just feel like she's the weakest Doctor we've had so far. And I like Jodie Whittaker as an actress. I've seen her in other stuff. She's good. I just feel like it was a huge miscast. It's interesting to me that my favorite 13th Doctor stories, for the most part, are not from the TV show. I mean, I love Power of the Doctor a lot, but that's more because I enjoyed the story and the fact she's not there for a lot of it. But I tend to like some of her comics, for example. Some of the comic books with the 13th Doctor are good. The short story Terror of the Umpity Ums is very, very good. It's interesting to me that the 13th Doctor can be a good Doctor when the character is written well and when I can imagine how how the role's being performed in my own mind. Whereas I feel like Whittaker doesn't get it quite right. My imagination and what they do in the comics when they draw her in the dialogue there, it just, when she's written better, she works. And I just feel like Whittaker doesn't always use the material she's given well, which, to be fair, in her defense, the material she's given a lot of times isn't very good. But I have several of her comics, and they're pretty good, or a few of her comics, and they're pretty good to one degree or another. And I love Terror of the Umpity Ums. That's very telling. Maybe Big Finish can redeem her. We'll see. The Eighth Doctor, definitely, it's just really tricky for me. I'm gonna say A, especially having listened to some more of the audios recently. Stormfront, The Chimes of Midnight, Sword of Orion, and The Stones of Venice. I tend to really like McGann in there. I've always liked him. He's great in the TV movie. He's the best part of the TV movie. And I like him in Night of the Doctor, and what little bit of time we get him in Power of the Doctor. So I'm looking forward to getting more into his audios. I also liked him in his version of Shada. I like that also, depending on what era of his you're listening to, he's a very different Doctor. His early Doctor being more optimistic and romantic a bit, adventurous, perhaps like the Doctors of old. And on the other hand, toward the end there, like in Night of the Doctor, he looks a bit like he's kind of given up hope and a little broken. And I think Big Finish really explores that transition. So I'm looking forward to listening to some of that. But I've definitely enjoyed my time with McGann. He's a good actor. Tom Baker, of course, is the GOAT. If I had a GOAT tier above S, he would be in it. He is my favorite Doctor. He is, the qualities Tom Baker inhabits into the role are the qualities that I associate with the Doctor. He's kind of the gold standard I measure all the other Doctors up with. That's why sometimes with Doctors who are very different than Tom Baker don't tend to place as high for me. Say Capaldi. Capaldi might be a lot of people's favorite Doctors, but he's definitely not one of the similar to Tom Doctors. So it doesn't quite work for me. Peter Capaldi, a lot of times, while he's a great actor and a good Doctor, he just doesn't quite fit for me because he doesn't have those Tom Baker mannerisms that I associate with it, like the little quirks and eccentricities that I associate with the Doctor. And to be fair, John doesn't either. John and Tom are very different, but I really like John. Of course, I also have a nostalgic childhood attachment to John, so that could be part of it as well, whereas I don't with Peter, which could very, nostalgia is definitely going to play a part in that. But I just love how Tom can be serious. He can be funny. He does so much. Like, I always wonder when I'm watching a Tom story, how many of his lines is he improvising? Because nobody knows the Fourth Doctor better than Tom Baker. So I love when he improvs lines and stuff. And I just love his manner of delivery. I always enjoy watching a Fourth Doctor story, as long as there's no giant squids involved. Even The Leisure Hive, my second least favorite story from him, I can enjoy when I go through it. So, Power of Kroll aside, I very much enjoy watching all of his stuff. Peter Capaldi, solid B for me. As I just mentioned, he's too different. He's more like Hartnell to me. And I like him. Now, if all three of his seasons was more like he is, if he was more like he is in Series 10, he would rank an A. Because Series 10 Capaldi reminds me a lot of Pertwee. He just does. He reminds me a lot of Pertwee. But he really does essentially act like a different character in all three of his seasons. And as others before me have pointed out, a lot of those changes take place off screen. We don't see a lot of the growth necessarily on screen. It's like Series 8, he's this person. And then somehow off screen, he becomes this person he is in Series 9. And then off screen of that, which Series 9 did end on some trauma there, so that's fair. and a lot of time had passed before Series 10, so that kind of is fair. He's this person in Series 10, but it's a little frustrating to always get these things off screen, even if, from a narrative standpoint, between Series 9 and 10, it does make sense. I think Peter Capaldi is one of the best actors to ever play the character, but again, the things that make up his Doctor aren't the things that I want in my quintessential versions of the Doctor. So while I like him and he plays the role well, and I enjoy his era, even though it's a mixed bag. I mean, he has really good stories, really bad stories, and a few in the middle stories. Most of them are really good or really bad. It's about a half and half split. All three of his series are mixed bags, to be sure. So he just kind of falls here. He's a good Doctor in an average era. We have Patrick, which is going to go up here as well. Those are my big three. I love the second Doctor, my second favorite Doctor. I just love everything Patrick Troughton brings to the role. What he does with his body language, what he does with his facial expressions, the way he delivers his lines, the looks he gets on his face, again, his facial expressions, the way he interacts with his companions. I love how caring and compassionate he can be. I love the sense of curiosity and wonder his Doctor has. His Doctor, more than any other Doctor, I get from him the joy of seeing the universe, the joy of just being that cosmic hobo that wants to explore the universe and see everything and see what he can get into. He wants to see it all. He's a much more innocent Doctor in many ways than a lot of the Doctors, especially the modern Doctors with all the trauma they've been through. And I love how the second Doctor reacts to situations, how his very Columbo method of playing dumb while he's secretly 3 steps ahead of everybody else, or trying to figure out a way to get 3 steps ahead of everybody else. I absolutely love everything Patrick Troughton is doing with the role. The sixth Doctor. This is a tricky one. I'm going to move him into B. He's been growing on me lately. Part of this is just because I love season 22. I mean, season 22 is so good. Season 23, I think, is the weakest of classic Who, while still being better than some of modern Who. Better than the worst of modern Who, we'll say. But I also enjoy his audios. I have heard a few of Colin's audios, and I do enjoy him in those. So, while the way he delivers his lines sometimes in the show is a bit theatrical, can be a little grating, and his twin dilemma, well, I shouldn't say performance, it's not his fault. The Sixth Doctor is very grating in the twin dilemma. You just have to get past the twin dilemma and realize he's not like that all the time, even if he can be a little frustrating sometimes after that. But he does get those wonderful moments, some good speeches in the show and in the audios. And he's just kind of worked my way up a little bit to where I put him over Davison. The 10th Doctor. Yeah, I'm going to go B. That's just kind of where he ends up. I used to like 10 a lot. He was my solid number 2 for a long time. I was a huge Tennant fanboy, with him being almost neck and neck with Tom at one point. But as I've gotten older, as I've seen most of Classic Who at this point, my biggest issue is he's too human. He's too emotional. He's a bit whiny, and he apologizes a lot. And just those little nitpicks have slowly grated on me more and more over time. Plus, I don't tend to like the romantic stuff with him and Rose much. I feel like he's a lot better with Martha and Donna. I love him and Donna. I love him and Martha together. Series 3 is my favorite of modern Who. So he's a good Doctor, don't get me wrong. He just doesn't, again, have those qualities that I want in a Doctor, and he has some qualities that I don't like in my Doctors, while being a good Doctor, if that makes sense. Next on the list is John Hurt, which I'm just going to put here. I think John Hurt is a great actor. We just don't get enough time with the War Doctor. I've seen, of course, Day of the Doctor and Name of the Doctor. I've also read the Engines of War book, and I've listened to the first audio story, The Innocent, which also has Jacqueline Pierce in it. So I've listened to a little bit of the expanded stuff, and I read the expanded stuff, but he just kind of falls here. I wish we'd had more time with him. It just kind of falls there. Eccleston. Yeah, I like Eccleston. I wish we had gotten a little more time with Eccleston. I think he's a good actor. I like that he's a darker doctor, a more traumatized doctor. I like how he can slip from comedy to serious on the fly the way he does. It's a great mix. He has that wonderful smile. You can tell he cares about people and still tries to do the right thing despite the emotional baggage he's carrying. And I feel like Christopher Eccleston really did a good job of bringing Doctor Who into the 21st century, bringing the Doctor into the 21st century for a brand new audience. And then Hartnell, I will also put in A. The first Doctor has really grown on me lately. Now that I've seen almost all of his era, just the authority he carries, and just the respect he commands, and the way that he knows he's the smartest person in the room, although he's a little arrogant about it, a little overbearing about it. I really like the way Hartnell plays this character a lot. Just a really solid performance. So some of the others that aren't on here, the 14th Doctor, I think I would put here in C, a little below the 10th actually, even though 14 and 10 are kind of the same. 14 seems a little more world weary than even 10 was, which I just find kind of grating. I like Tennant's performance. I like 14's outfit. It's great having him and Donna back together. But he just looks like a doctor who's ran out of gas, which is crazy since it's a brand new regeneration technically, where instead it just feels like an older version of the 10th Doctor that's out of gas and ready to regenerate. So the 14th Doctor, if they had a thumbnail for him, I'd probably put here in C. Ruth, I would also put here in C for the same reason as the War Doctor. I just want to see more of her. I do like the Ruth Doctor. I actually prefer Ruth over Whittaker for sure. I liked her. I believe that Joe Martin has said she was kind of influenced a bit from Capaldi's Doctor, and that shows. Just that the way she carries herself reminds me a lot of Capaldi. I think she does that very well. She's definitely a Doctor you take serious. She also has some of Hartnell in her, I think, where when she walks into a room, all eyes turn to her, and she knows how to command a room, and she definitely speaks with an authority that says, hey, listen to me. I can save your lives. And I really like that about her. So if we could have just had more time with her, I think she would be higher because she's really close to bumping into B, just like John Hurt is. And then we have Ncuti Gatwa, and I can't quite decide where he goes. Like, I don't think I'd put him in E, but he would probably go between C and D. I can't quite make up my mind. My problem is I think Ncuti Gatwa is a good actor. And there are times I love some of the stuff he's doing with the Doctor. But due to the way they write the 15th Doctor, I have frustrations with him. The crying all the time. I think the crying would work if it had only been done 3 times max. Like, if you'd given me 3 cries, I'd have been fine. But the fact it happens every episode, sometimes twice an episode, it loses all impact and just becomes a trope and a meme at that point. All of the stuff with Rogue, again, I tend not to like when the Doctor is romantically attached. It has nothing to do with the fact that it's a gay relationship. I don't care. I didn't like Rose with 10 very much either. I have a feeling if I'd been my age now when the TV movie came out, I wouldn't have liked him kissing Grace. It didn't bother me at the time because I was a teenager, but I have a feeling if I was in my 40s then, I'd have been like, what are they doing on my Doctor Who? But yeah, I found Rogue very frustrating because I don't like the Doctor in romantic entanglements. I just wanted him to get back to exploring the universe, which is what I thought we were going to get. The way that the giggle ended, I figured, okay, we're getting back to a Doctor who's past all the trauma, he's got all the baggage handled, because that seems to be what the giggle is setting up, is that this Doctor is baggage and trauma free. We can finally have a Doctor just exploring the universe who's happy and excited to be alive for the first time in modern Doctor Who. The first time. And turns out, no, this Doctor still has baggage. Maybe it's the Time Lords being all killed again and him being alone, but the baggage keeps creeping in, and that just frustrates me. Also, Rogue frustrated me because the romance takes the main focus of the story, and the actual plot of the story with the bird people feels like it's playing second fiddle, which really frustrated me with that episode. So I feel like you could do a lot with the 15th Doctor. I feel like Shudigatwa could do a lot with the role if the writing that he was getting was better and let him do that. But I have a feeling a lot of the stuff that they're writing for him he likes, so but it's not working for me. So he would probably go in D or between C and D, not quite up to C, just because I'm frustrated with some of the things doing the role. But he has moments where he really shines in the role. I loved how he handled Dot and Bubble, especially that ending. That was perfect acting. That I really felt like he was the Doctor there. That was definitely a Doctor moment. And I love a lot of the stuff he was doing in Boom, for example. I thought was really, really good, and The Devil's Cord. So he really does feel like the Doctor at times, but then there are other times I'm like, what have they done to my Doctor Who? So that's kind of where he would go between C and D, if not in D. Hopefully, season 2 can maybe do something more with him. We shall see. So that is how I would rank the Doctors and Doctor Who. With got my top 3 here in the S tier, my favorite 3. Got several in the A tier here. Got some in the B tier, which are going to get me in trouble. Yep, Tennant and Capaldi in the B tier. We got several in the C tier, including ones not pictured, like the 14th Doctor. Maybe got one either C or D. And of course, Whittaker going in the Whittaker tier. That's a heck of a coincidence. I'm telling you, a heck of a coincidence. Then yeah, that's pretty much how I would rank them. I want to know what you think of this ranking and how you would rank them. So comment down below and let's talk about it. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button as well. That helps me out. Click the thumbs up button. Yeah. I also have all of that other fun stuff down in the comments, down in the video description as well, I should say. Links to the Patreon, links to the Amazon wishlist, links to the Amazon UK wishlist, the P.O. boxes down there. If there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review, I want to give a shout out to Colin Coney, a top tier patron of mine. I appreciate his support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. It's very much appreciated. Most importantly, thank you for watching.